Good morning, everyone, and thanks for taking part. You're joining us in our question and answer consultation event for the plans for Valley Ridge, a new eco-friendly, family-focused staycation resort. My name's Matt Harmer and I work for Your Shout. We're organising the community consultation for this project, working alongside the project team, some of whom I'll introduce in just a moment. This is the first of 6 question and answer events where we'll present the scheme and then give you the opportunity to ask your questions to the team. And thank you to those of you who've already raised questions. This event will last between 30 and 90 minutes, depending on the number of questions that were asked. You can ask as many as you like, but we ask that you keep them short and direct so that we can answer them in the best manner possible. Now, let me introduce our team members taking part today. From our architects, we're joined by Chris.
Good morning, my name is Chris Hall. I'm a partner at Holden Mathias Architects.
Oh, great. And from our planning consultants, firstly, we have Rebecca.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Neal from DP9.
And Rebecca's colleague, Peter.
Hi everyone, my name is Peter Tremolo from DP9.
Great. From our transport team, we're joined by Phil.
Good morning, I'm Phil Bell. I'm a director at Motion. I deal with traffic and transport.
Brilliant. From our economics consultants, Ellie.
Hi, my name's Ellie Evans. I'm a partner at Volterra.
Our landscape architect is Philip.
Hello, Philip Smith from Bradley Murphy Design, Associate Landscape Architect.
And finally, from the development company, Simon.
Good morning, I'm Simon Padgett. I represent Valley Ridge Holdings.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you for your presentation, as Chris, that's really helpful. Thank you to everybody who's asked questions. Please continue to do so. I'm going to start coming to them now. I won't read out every single question, but I'm going to group some of them. If you feel that you need more detail on anything, you can use the share your views button to ask any more questions. You can also email us and you can also telephone us. I've been asked if there's any way to contact people on this call specifically. The answer is yes, through the method I've just stated, and we'll make sure that your question goes to the right person and that you get a good answer. Our first questions are going to be about transport, which is obviously an important issue, and I am going to read out a couple of questions. You'll see why I'll start reading this one out. A question that says, I think this is a fantastic development and great for the area, and thank you for that. The only concern I have is the amount of people who will use the local roads. Will any existing roads be up? Ramford Road. Over to you, Phil, for talking about transport and roads. Phil.
Thanks, Matt. I'll deal with the A14 question first. So junction 52 of the A14 is where we envisage the majority of car-borne traffic will arrive from. And also, as a sort of precursor to this, I'll just mention that, of course, there is a planning permission existing on the site for something known as Snoasis. And that's the benchmark against which we assess traffic for obvious reasons. Junction 52 does not currently suffer from any traffic congestion issues, and nor is it predicted to do so. So there are no improvements proposed or considered necessary at that junction. And I should also mention that, of course, as part of this process and the Snoasis process prior to this, we've obviously been in detailed discussion with both Highways England and the County Council. So that is a view that's shared with both those organisations, particularly Highways England. In terms of other improvements, I'll come on to traffic in a minute, because I'm sure there'll be questions about that. But in terms of local improvements, we are proposing a roundabout to provide the main access to the site from Bramford Road, and we're also proposing some cycle enhancements between Claydon and the site. Again, these works were considered in detail as part of the Snoasis plan application, and we will be rolling those out in relation to this one too.
Okay, thanks for that. And can you tell us a little bit about how the discussions are going to be held to decide what other changes or improvements might be made? What processes are you going through at the moment?
Okay, good question. So we don't have all the answers at this moment in time. We've spent the last month or so working through the traffic generation. We've done that in consultation with Suffolk County Council and will continue to do so. We're hoping that within the next week or two we will have those answers. We will share those with Suffolk County Council, and then we will carry out our more detailed analysis, which ultimately will will be set out in the transport assessment that will go in with the planning application. So there may be other requirements to mitigate traffic, for example. At this stage, I don't envisage that there will.
If I can just turn to Rebecca, just to discuss this particular aspect in terms of the traffic, how will people be able to find out as the application progresses and is submitted to the council what improvements are being made? And can you add anything to what we've heard about the discussions that are going to be had with, I guess, the two councils involved?
Yeah, so when the planning application is submitted over the summer, it kind of becomes public and goes on the council's website. So all of the documents that we've prepared, that Phil have prepared, that sets out what the proposals for transport are, will be published on the council's website. And there'll be a statutory consultation period where residents can go on and make comments to the council on those measures. So this is obviously being done pre-application, but during the application process, there will also be that period of consultation when the council assesses it. And so the kind of final proposals transport-wise will be made public as part of that process.
Okay, then we've been given some other suggestions and questions about Bramford Road between the area with the budgeons and the traffic lights. Things like, can we commit to safety barriers to protect walking pedestrians? Are they the kind of discussions that will be ongoing between now and when the application is finalised or during the decision process?
They are. Road safety is an important part of the transport assessment. We'll be looking at that very closely. I would say, however, that it's not normal to provide railings to protect pedestrians using footways, and in this case, a shared footway cycleway. The curb does that to some extent, and in that case, it is quite a wide footway cycleway. So I wouldn't envisage any railings in that location, but it is something we will consider.
And I think that we're also on to interested in finding out what other people's ideas are, and I think this is all very helpful. I've been asked a lot of questions about the activities on site. Now, some of those, Chris, you covered in your presentation, so I think I'm coming back to you now just for a little bit more clarification. In particular, we've been asked by a couple of people about building heights and will they be able to see the buildings. Can you talk briefly about the changes between the consented scheme, the one, the Snoasis scheme that you've mentioned, the heights of the particular buildings there compared to what we might have now?
Yes, certainly, Matt. The original scheme had, obviously everybody knows, had a taller ski slope at 400 metres. That rose 50 metres higher on the site than our proposed ski slope. We are looking to submerge into the quarry. We start at the ridge level, and in terms of our height of building, we are around about 20 metres taller than the current ridge level, but that's compared with 70 metres at the previous scheme proposal. The rest of the buildings are comparable heights, so the hotel previously was around about 77 metres above sea level, and our hotel buildings are of a similar height. So yes, there'll be a reduced visual impact from this proposal.
One specific question asks, our viewer lives in Blueleys Park and was wondering if they'd be able to see the slope being built on the Valley Ridge site. If that's I know it's a very specific question. If you can answer that, do so now. Otherwise, as I reiterate, with specific questions like that, we will come back to you to find out, to anybody who's asked those questions with those details. But Chris, is that something that you can talk to now?
Not particularly specifically on a particular property, but the visual impact assessment that will be carried out, that is being carried out, looks at a series of key viewpoints around the site. They're the similar positions to as were done previously for Snoasis, and they will identify the theoretical visual impact. So when that process is underway, we can certainly look at particular locations to see whether there is a concern. But as I said, it's a much smaller, a much lower height project than the previous scheme, which did obtain planning approval. So this is definitely an improvement on that previous scheme.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you for that. Can we talk about pollution? Light pollution specifically, Chris. It's been suggested that the area that we're in is quite dark and we need to be careful about that. Is that something you can talk about?
Yes, I mean, it is very much a dark site at the moment, but it's also a lower lying site. Our engineers will be looking at light pollution, but their suggestion, it's unlikely to actually have any significant impact because of the lower lying location. We also have the existing habitats on site, which must be protected. So any measures we put in place in terms of lighting will have to take account of the local species, bats, etc. And therefore, we will be looking to protect the established and retained natural habitats with any lighting proposals. And we'll be looking to keep any impact to a minimum.
Great. And a question has just come in to ask, you said you mentioned some outdoor summer events. Is there anything we can talk about noise pollution?
Noise pollution, similarly, the remoteness of the site will have a natural impact on noise pollution. We're not envisaging Glastonbury or anything like that. In fact, we're not really at the stage of knowing exactly what events we might be hosting.
And I think that we can say that whatever events take place, we will make sure that we continue to be good neighbours. It's not anything we don't want to disturb people. It's our intention not to do that. We want to provide a brilliant result that works well alongside our neighbours. Would you feel that's fair, Chris?
Absolutely, yes, I agree.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I'm going to talk about economic impacts now. I think I've just had a question that comes in. It's probably a simple question to ask. Will there be jobs for local people? Earlier we were asked, are we confident that there's enough capacity in the local jobs market for people to be employed locally? If so, or rather if not so, does that mean that there'll be a large number of people coming into the area? I think we turn to Ellie for those questions. Ellie.
Thanks, Matt. So we estimate that there'll be around 1,800 jobs. There'll be a wide variety of jobs, so many of those will be full-time, but there'll be also lots of part-time and seasonal opportunities. And given the nature of the scheme, as you've heard from Chris, there's a wide variety of types of jobs. So across the apartments and the hotel rooms, there'll be cleaning staff as well as catering, receptionists, lifeguards in the water pools, ski instructors, so a really wide variety. In terms of availability of workforce, this isn't an area with really high rates of unemployment, but there are some unemployed people. And as with the whole country, I guess, over the last year, unemployment rates have sadly increased massively. They've more than doubled in this area. So there's currently over 20,000 people claiming some form of job seeker related benefit in the area. And the area we're looking at largely is the Suffolk, the whole of Suffolk, which is considered the travel to work area. So the area from which people would reasonably commute. So we do anticipate that the vast majority of jobs would be taken by local people from that area.
Hi, Matt. Could I just jump in on that point quickly?
Please do. Please do.
A very important part of our strategy is to provide people with a genuine choice about how they travel to and from the site, and that includes visitors and staying guests, but also staff. So as part of the proposals, we will be running a fleet of shuttle buses. They will go to and from both Stowmarket stations and also the centre of Ipswich. So that will allow a lot of people to travel to the site by the sustainable staff shuttle buses from a very wide area.
It's really good that you moved on to what I was going to ask you about next, which is trains. We've been asked a couple of questions. We've been asked if there's going to be any new services at Great Blakenham Station, whether Needham Market might be used, whether there were still proposals to improve Stowmarket Station. So can you talk about all of those?
I can indeed. The original planning permission for the Snoasis scheme, which at that stage I was not involved. I was involved at the reserve matters stage, but not the original planning application stage. That was predicated on a new railway station at Great Blakenham. That was neither viable nor supported by Great Anglia, the operator. And as part of the reserve matters application, that proposal fell away, and instead of that we were offering the shuttle buses that I've already mentioned. Needham Market railway station has a lesser service to it than Stowe Market. So as I mentioned, we will be running shuttle buses from Stowe Market. We're also proposing step-free access at that station in the form of lifts to the existing overbridge.
I understand that there was discussions earlier about Great Blakenham Station, as I think you said, but it was partly the train operators didn't want to stop there.
That's correct.
So whilst it might have been a potential, it was examined as part of the previous application. I'll stay with you for a couple of recent questions about the efforts to improve cycling, and I've also been asked if we'll accommodate tricycles, which our questioner points out are often used by disabled riders. Can you confirm that?
I mentioned already cycle improvements between the site and Blakenham. I think there is a plan if someone's able to bring that up. Along Bramford Road there is a shared footway cycleway which could accommodate tricycles, and tricycles I would have thought would be an important part of the on-site supply of cycles available for hire as well.
And that would include people being able to get to and from the site by bicycle or tricycle, I guess. Just been asked if we're using electric vehicles and buses. I guess in the future we all will be, won't we?
We will indeed. The intention would be that the shuttle buses will be most likely electric, but whatever fuel we choose, it will be a low emission fuel in accordance with the NPPF. As far as electric vehicle charging is concerned, we'll be from the outset providing at least 25% of parking spaces with EV charging provision, which is a very high proportion and very forward thinking, we think.
Phil, I've been asked if you can confirm, I'll keep you on for just a second longer, about whether you're aware that there'll be much impact on changeover days and the considerations that you've taken, and of what one question asks will be a peak load on 1 or 2 days of the week as people leave and come back in.
So another good question. It's envisaged that the lodges will tend to be used by people staying either 3 or 4 days, with changeover days on Mondays and Friday, as is sort of tradition in the UK. In the hotel, we envisage shorter stays, but we've considered this. I mentioned before, we've spent the last few weeks doing a very detailed analysis, a first principles approach to traffic movements and such like, and this effectively splits matters down between staff, staying guests, and day visitors and we've considered changeover days and non-changeover days. The reality is the staying guests tend to travel off-peak, whereas the focus of our transport assessment will be confined, not exclusively to, but will be focused on peak hours. In fact, what's interesting is the peak hour flows, and peak hours traditionally 8 till 9 on a weekday and 5 till 6 on a weekday. Traffic flows are actually predicted to be higher on a non-changeover day during those periods, just because of the way the shift patterns work out. But fundamentally, the vast majority of traffic will take place out of those normal peak hours.
Talk about the landscaping efforts that we're making. I've been asked, I'm going to start with a couple of specific questions as these come to Philip. Will we be providing badger sets, bird boxes and other efforts to increase the amount of wildlife that are in the area? That's for Philip.
So yes, thank you for the question. Yes, of course, badgers are present on site, as Chris alluded to earlier, and bat activity also, and obviously lots of birds and wildlife for habitats for them. And yes, we will be looking to work towards a biodiversity net gain, and we will be ensuring that badgers particularly, and newts as well, and other species on site will be protected for, provided for, and where we do, if there are areas where we do need to disturb badger sets, then they will be re-provided elsewhere on the site.
Okay then, and can you talk about other specific things that you feel we're doing to increase the biodiversity of the site?
So within the quarry area, we are looking at lots of new tree planting, and building on some of the areas of scrubland that we can kind of keep as set aside for wildlife. What we have to remember on this site is it is a huge site and it's not all being built on. Certain areas have been chosen for the buildings for good reasons in terms of the minimal impact on wildlife and on the landscape. And so lots of the other areas we can really enhance the existing landscape typologies to really create much more areas for wildlife and for enhancement.
Okay, then, thanks. I think these are questions for Simon. I'm just going to ask Simon to confirm something, really, if Simon can pop on briefly. The importance of local visitors. Quite a few people have asked for confirmation that day passes will be available and day visitors will be welcome. Is that something that you can talk about, Simon?
Yes, you know, we want to encourage local visitors. We want to encourage the use of the facilities for local people. And we'll be putting in day visitor passes at a discount for local residents.
Okay, then, that's good to know. And will there be an opportunity for local people to see what we hope will be the finished development in 2024 at an early stage?
Of course, you know, we're very proud of what we're going to produce, hopefully, and it would be nice to get locals to come around and spend a day on the site pre-opening.
We look forward to that. I think I'm going to turn in that to talk about the timetable. A couple of people have asked about when the project is likely to have building work start and be complete. We've also been asked if we've made efforts to make sure that construction won't be something that damages people. Now, that was something that Phil was going to talk to. I don't know if anybody can hear Phil, so I'm going to ask Peter to
I can try, Matt. I think I'm informed that I've improved things.
Okay.
So, other people are nodding. So apologies if I was quiet. Hopefully people can now hear me. I'll talk a little bit about construction. My sort of expertise in that area is construction traffic, but at the moment we simply don't know exactly how the buildings are going to be built and how it's going to be phased. So people often want to know about construction traffic numbers. We don't know the answer to that now at this moment in time, but what we do know is that there will be a construction traffic management plan or construction management plan, and that would deal with all matters such as construction traffic routing, vehicle sizes, timing in particular, impact on schools and such like, and that will be controlled through the planning process. Bramford Road itself is of course a B-class road, and it's envisaged that the vast majority of construction traffic, certainly the larger construction vehicles, will use B and A classified roads only.
One of our questioners has written to say much better, Phil. So I'm going to leave it there for you now,
Good,
Phil. Although we may come back to you, but we thank everybody for their patience. If you weren't able to hear Phil earlier on, that's very much appreciated. And I've been asked if we've got an outdoor pool as well as an indoor pool. I'll do the second question first for Chris. Where's our swimming pools going to be?
We are providing outdoor and indoor experiences at the water park. Outdoor, we're looking at a rapids run and heated outdoor pools. At the wellness centre as well, we're providing an outdoor pool with an infinity edge feature and outdoor hot tubs. And we're also looking at using the spa lake for cold water swimming.
Oh, I've been asked some other things about things we can use. I've been asked if people are going to be able to take donkey rides. Okay, then. Have you heard anything about donkey rides?
That's not something we've looked at so far, but if there was a
I think this
demand.
it's a welcome thing. I don't think it's been suggested, but we do welcome suggestions of other potential uses. We were also asked, as is a similar question, about cycle trails within the park. I think, Chris, that's something that you can talk briefly about.
Yes, certainly. Along with Philip, we are looking at cycle tracks around the site as part of our landscape design.
Okay, then. I think this is a question that Chris and Phil might want to share. I've been asked if we can confirm whether our car park will be big enough for customers and for employees. Will it be free? Will everybody be able to use it? Because our question asks, will that prevent the need for people to try and park in the local area? The size of the car park, Chris, is that something you want to start with?
Yes, certainly the car park, as it's developing, will cater for all needs on site. That's going hand in hand with Phil's assessment. In terms of people parking locally and walking in, it's quite a long walk, so it's unlikely that people will do that in reality, but the parking will be associated with the development, and I don't expect we'll be charging, or the charge will be incorporated into the day visitor pass.
It's also been suggested that we let people have electric scooters to get around. Whether that will be possible or not, I think that's something that remains to be seen. I've been asked to clarify a question about footpaths, some of which are enjoyed, our question says, by people in the area at the moment. Will that continue to be the case? I guess there's a difference between the footpaths inside our site and outside, Chris. Would that be the case?
Can I take that one, Matt? I think
yes, absolutely.
I'm probably better placed to deal with that one. There are a number of public rights of way around the site. Sadly, some of those were severed many years ago when the quarry was dug out. We are proposing to reinstate those public rights of way around the periphery of the site, and also upgrade other sections of existing sections of public right of way to provide a fully sort of joined up network around the site.
And I guess being the joined up neighbour comes in all sorts of transport as well, doesn't it? Making sure that the links to the site and back to site work for everybody, which include the day visitors, people who might be visiting for a week but want to come out for one day to go somewhere else in the area.
Of course, yeah.
That's a good point. I've just been asked if we can have diving boards in the pool. Again, I think these are all suggestions that we welcome and come in. We possibly can't answer every single one now, but if there are uses that you think we've missed, then please do let us have them. I've been asked about waste collection from the site and how that will work and where it will go. And I'm not really sure who that should go to. Is that a question for Rebecca? I saw Rebecca possibly be able to answer that. No. Okay,
I'll have a go, Matt.
Bill, we're keeping you busy. That's okay.
So I'm used to it. For a commercial organisation such as this, it will be private refuse collection. So it'll be up to the operator which company they use to take waste off-site, and it'll be down to them where it ends up. Of course, prior to that, the focus, as you would expect, will be on recycling wherever possible, and that will form an important part of the waste strategy.
And I've been asked where dust cart lorries would have to share local roads, we'll make sure that that's managed sufficiently well to make sure that our roads stay clear and safe. It's been asked that I confirm because of landfill sites that might be near our site.
Yeah, a scheme of this size will, of course, generate quite a lot of waste, but as I said before, access is via B and A class roads only, so shouldn't be any local impact.
Okay, then completely understood. Come in. I've been asked. I'm a local dog walker, and can I continue to use the area for walking my hounds? Will this be okay? I think that comes back to the earlier answer about within sight and without. Really, that. How will we make sure, in fact this has just been asked, I think this is for Chris, that the borders of our site aren't unsightly and don't consist of, what does it say here, barbed wire fences and so on. Is that anything you can talk about? Possibly, Chris?
Yes, us and Philip really. Philip's slide pointed out that there would be a green edge around the site that would be enhanced with tree planting. Certainly if there's old barbed wire fences, those will have to be looked at in terms of upgrading to make them safe and far more attractive. So yes, simply.
Okay. More questions? Go carry on there.
Just to add to that, obviously with the landscape, we really want this, we know that it's a kind of an existing hole in the ground in many respects, but we want it to blend in with the existing surrounding countryside as much as possible. And so any kind of boundary or fencing proposals that we put forward will be kind of subtle and in keeping with the countryside.
Okay, I've also been asked what might happen to current football pitches that are on our land. I guess if they're on the site, then they probably won't be maintained as football pitches. That's going to be a fair thing to say, but we will try and make sure that plenty of notice and so on is given for there. Lots of other questions about use. Can you talk about a skating rink? We're staying with you, Chris, I think, for some of the uses. I've been asked to say whether or not there'll be a skating rink in here.
There was a skating rink in Snoasis, which was the original sort of emphasis on alpine environment. Potentially on the ridge, we could have a seasonal skating facility. You often see those appearing in town centres and that. At the moment, the assessments are suggesting that a full-time skating rink is not something that has sufficient demand.
Okay, then. How about ice climbing? Apparently, ice climbing walls in small spaces could be considered. It's a growing sport in the UK.
Yes, I mean, one good thing about the snow park, it's on quite a steep incline. It has lots of level changes, and we will certainly be looking at things like ice climbing to get people. We will have lots of walls of snow and ice climbing is definitely something we are looking at in the design of the snow park.
Phil, can you just go over once again the way that your team will be making sure that the concerns that people have about transport, and in particular the impact on roads locally in the area, the A14, Bamford Road and so on, are going to be met? Just to go over what people may not have heard before. Over to you, Phil.
Thanks, Matt. Apologies again for sound issues earlier. Hopefully now better. We work well. Firstly, we benchmark against the approved Snoasis scheme and including its traffic generation. There are a lot of similarities to this. It's interesting. We haven't quite finalised our analysis, but based on the work to date, the figures are coming out very similar. In fact, slightly lower during the morning peak hour. We do focus on peak hours. I mentioned before, 8 to 9 in the morning, 5 till 6, but we do also look at interpeak and other periods. We work closely with Highways England, who are responsible for the A14, and Suffolk County Council, who are responsible for the other local roads. It's their job, fundamentally, as a consultee for the planning application to ensure that existing congestion issues aren't exacerbated or that new issues aren't created. So we'll be working very closely with them. We've agreed the study area, we've agreed the approach, and we're working through that with them at the moment. At this stage, I don't envisage any significant traffic issues that we can't resolve in a straightforward manner. And I say that with some confidence because, of course, we do have, as I said before, a consent for the Snoasis scheme, which generates similar traffic levels.
Yes, it's been suggested by some that the levels might be slightly higher under Valley Ridge than compared to the previous scheme. Will that be analysed, and if necessary, further changes or improvements brought about?
Yeah, it certainly will be analysed, and if I was completely frank, my view a few weeks ago was that we probably would be generating slightly higher volumes of traffic, but actually the indicators suggest that actually the traffic will be lower. But bluntly, if we need to mitigate traffic impact, then we will.
Okay, then. And could you also just go over again some of the local implications for rail services and bus services in case people missed that? We talked about a potential train station stop at Great Blakenham and connections with other stations.
Indeed, the original Snoasis planning permission was predicated on a new station at Great Blakenham. That was neither viable nor supported by the rail operator Greater Anglia, and therefore was dropped as part of the Reserve Matters application. Instead of that, we were then and continue to be proposing shuttle buses. Those shuttle buses will go to and from Stowe Market Station, which benefits from a better service than Needham Market, and also from Ipswich itself.
It's an interesting question, which I think I'm going to try and answer. It's about chalk, and it specifies that chalk was very important to the industry in the area, and could we liaise with Geo Suffolk or other parties to produce some educational material, such as information boards that tell the story of chalk in the area. I think it's an interesting subject and something that we will start by adding some information to the website too, because I think we want to refer to the area's history as well as talk about its future. I've been asked if I'm going to go back to Chris. Could you just clarify for us the number of hotel rooms and the number of lodges, and talk about grass roofs? I've been asked if you could talk about that one a bit more. I think that's Chris.
Okay, thank you. So there are 500 lodges proposed. There are 450 hotel rooms proposed and 120 apartments. Green roofs, we have large green roof. Well, we have large roof structures on the ski slope, the water park and the sports centre. They're likely to have green roofs on those. Additionally, we have terraces around the hotel and apartments and on the spa, which could support more dense landscaped roof forms. So we're certainly looking to put as much green roof as we can on there. The lodges are pitch roof structures, which may not be quite as suitable for green roofs, as it gets difficult to keep them watered, but they offer good opportunities for things like photovoltaic panels or solar thermal, which will help our sustainability credentials.
Okay, thanks for that. A question which I think I'll direct to Ellie. Our questioner asks if it's realistic that many of the supplies for the construction phase can be sought locally. Has any work been done, or will any work be done on local procurement? Ellie?
Yes, work will be done. We haven't analysed all of that yet, but we will look at the scale of opportunities for local people during construction, both in terms of direct employment on site, but also supply chain.
Okay, that's good news. A couple of questions, including one from a doctor that asks, will we have a medical centre and doctor on site? I know the answer to this is yes, but can anybody confirm for us any further news on the size or the way that will be kitted out? I think that might be again for Chris, actually.
As I said at the beginning of the presentation, we're still at concept stage. So we are providing first aid facility in the ski slope and the water park. We'll be looking to minimize accidents within the design as much as possible. But if there were accidents, skiing and water slides are good candidates for that. As for the size of these, we will be working through the detail of that at the next stage.
Yeah. And our safety on every single activity is going to be an absolute priority, isn't it? That it's our intention that whilst there will be medical facilities on site, it's also our intention that they will never ever be used.
Absolutely.
I've also been asked how far away the nearest A&E hospital is. I don't know the answer to that offhand, but I'm sure that that's something that we can that we can find out. I think safety is obviously a very important thing to be. Oh, Chris, a very specific question here. How long will the ski slope be?
It's going to be at least 180 metres. We're refining the design at the moment with the ski slope specialists. It depends on a number of factors of the runoff at the top and the bottom of the slope and the pitch of the slope. Got 3 pitches of the slope as it ascends from the base. Yeah, I mean we want to be the longest in the UK, and so we are looking at 180 metres plus.
And that's something that presumably will finalise between now and when the application is submitted in the summer, and will be known for sure by that time, won't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, then. Quite a few people asking if local residents will get priority access and discounted visits. I have to turn to Simon for that one. Simon, there's questions about this. I'm sure that we're very welcoming to local visitors, won't we?
We will, as I said earlier, we will look at doing discounted day passes for local residents, school trips, etc. It's in the early concept stage. I'm not in control of the operational side of it, but it's certainly something that is on the list to include.
I think that one thing that we've learnt this morning is that there's going to be a lot of interest locally. In fact, we've learnt since the leaflets, about 7,500 leaflets were sent out earlier a couple of weeks ago. I think it's something I can say that's come back a lot, that there are a number of people who live locally who would like to come for the day, and I think that we welcome them very much. A couple more specific questions. I'm not seeing too many more new questions, but I return to Chris, I think. Are our lakes big enough for paddle boards? Another potential use.
Possibly, yes. I mean, the northern lakes are surrounded by lodges. Two of the lakes connect up, and we'll be looking at calmer outdoor activities in that location. So things like paddleboarding and kayaking, I think they go hand in hand in this location.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a really good potential use. And just staying with you, Chris, just for a bit of clarification, the lodges, are they going to be lodges of different sizes with different numbers of bedrooms in, as far as you're aware at the moment?
Yeah, the plan at the moment, and it is early days, but the plan at the moment is for 3 beds and 4 beds. This is based on the previous needs assessment for the project, so it may change, but 3 beds gives a good size, and 4 beds gives you a little bit more. Then also we have the terrace options, which mean you could potentially cater for larger gatherings as they join together.
Is it fair to say then that that's part of the new focus on being a family-friendly resort, where there's more rooms, whether it's in the lodge or spaces in the hotel, that are focused on families? Chris, is that something that's been a key part of your work on developing
Absolutely.
the project?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
I think it's something that we all think is important, that we want to build a family-friendly resort that's a really good neighbour. I've been asked by a couple of people what being a good neighbour means. I'm going to try and answer that by having something that can offer a lot of activities to the local community, also provide some significant investment, and be something that people are proud to have in the area. I think, as possibly a concluding remark, Simon, could you just say, from the point of view of your team, that you are determined to be a good neighbour? Is that fair?
We are. We have to live in the community. We want the community to get involved in the scheme, and hopefully we can have a long-term beneficial relationship between us and the local residents.
I think that this is an important thing. I think a couple of other questions have come in, possibly too specific for now, though we welcome them, talking about the specific equipment that will be in gyms that local people might be able to use. And please, as you're watching, we welcome any ideas that come in. Questions like, just come in, can my dog stay in the lodges with my family? I think we're all going to nod to that one, aren't we? I'm just looking at my screen where I can see everyone. And again,
well, for one, I'm a dog person, and I think, there will be a number of lodges that are dog friendly, I'm sure.
That's good news. Stay there, Simon, because a question, another one that's just come in, asks about facilities for corporate events and team building. Can you talk briefly about that, or would you prefer Chris pick that up?
I think it's early stages for that. There is an intention within the business plan to be able to have some corporate events. Exactly how they will be facilitated, it's too early for me to say, really.
Again, we welcome everybody's views on these things. I'm going to ask Peter just to sum up the progress of the planning application, when we would expect to submit an application to the local authority, and the timescale that might take after that. Peter, if you could just clarify that for us in response to a couple of questions, I'd be grateful.
Sure. Okay. We are looking to submit the planning application in the summer. So end of July is what our current programme is showing. From then, as been explained by Rebecca and a few others, there will be a public consultation period, which is typically runs through to a planning committee. We're looking at a planning committee around 4 months after submission, so kind of autumn to the end of this year, and it's that period from submission to committee, which is when public comments are welcomed as part of that determination period. And then obviously from a planning committee, a decision is made by councillors, and then from there is a decision notice and through to kind of start on site and the construction activity which is being described.
Okay, that's really good to know. Thanks very much. I haven't seen any further questions coming in, so I'm going to draw this session to a close now. I'm going to start by saying goodbye now. Thanks to everybody who's taken part, and thanks to all of you for watching and for taking the time to participate in this Community UK event. And we do look forward to hearing from you as you share your views. So from all of us here, have a very good day. Goodbye now.